Hello everyone. So I have been banging on for the last few years about our security, our internal security of the state. As you know, border security is pretty much non-existent. Pretty much everybody gets in without passports. So first of all, you have a major problem there. Second of all, we don't have an intelligence agency. The Irish state didn't really ever have an intelligence agency. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but we never did. We're only kind of getting one up and going now. And as you see here from the Times in the UK, and this is not the first time the Communist Party of China has infiltrated this country. Spies of the Communist Party have infiltrated Irish democracy, Irish society. And pretty much this fellow has come here on a study visa, on a student visa, to study in Ireland. And he's been acting it's been acting very weirdly in terms of going to politicians, participant like in the public, in politics, I suppose you would say. It's very sus. It is really, really sus what he's up to, because he is trying to cozy up to TDs, etc., etc. So it's very, very sus. And the Gaudi think so too, and I think so from looking at what I've been shown from the Times in the UK and other sources too. It is very sus what this person was up to, and I don't know how we ever got a student visa. So we have to look at student visas. We have to do proper background checks on everybody. Nobody should be coming to this country unless we've literally turned them up, like with a fine comb, look through everything. And particularly from China too, because this is not the first time that China has done this. And we'll talk about another story in a second that has to do with Ireland's security, internal security of the state, because there's major threats against this state at the moment. And the media are not talking about it. The media are not talking about it, because we are defenceless as a defence force, as a fighting force too. We are defenceless. We rely on the British Army for a lot of stuff. The RAF, for example, to patrol our skies. We have no fighter aircraft. I could sit here for 9 hours and talk about all that. But we have to start taking ourselves serious in this country, to start taking our sovereignty, because the whole idea in this country, and from the top up, from me, Martin the Taoiseach, that we don't want look a backwards looking idea of sovereignty. We're fully committed to the ideas of the European Union, etc., etc. So pretty much let NATO sort it out. Let the European Union form a European army. We don't want a backwards looking idea of sovereignty. And the one thing about sovereignty, I keep saying this, is you have your own army, you're able to defend yourself, you're able to uphold your sovereignty, your freedom, your democracy. The Irish state that we have at the moment hates that. They hate the whole foundation of that. But anyway, it went over. So it wasn't the first time. This is back in 2022. Imagine this, in any other country they would laugh you, say that the foreign government came over here and set up a police station without the government. The Department of Foreign Affairs, the Irish government, said they had no knowledge. The Irish police force too had no knowledge that this was going on. And obviously they wouldn't hide it. They didn't hide it. It was literally on the street, and there was Chinese police officers in this state. There was a major security breach in this country that this was allowed to happen, because I'm sure to God if the Gardaí, the Irish police force, went over to Beijing and set up a Garda station over there, even though they can't police the streets of Ireland, but that's something they probably would do if they got away with it. I don't think Xi Jinping would be too happy with us. I think Xi Jinping would do something about them guards that were sent over there. I don't think he would let that happen. And I don't think any Irish citizens would be ever allowed back into China if that happened. But nothing ever came of this. Nothing ever came of this. The Irish state just kind of left it there. They never done anything about it, pretty much. It did close. But they never came. The Gardaí never followed up whether these people go to within this police station. I never heard of it. I looked into it. I never found out, did the Gardaí find out where these people, did they leave the country? Were they demanded to leave the country? Were they brought to the airport and told to get on a plane and never to come back? What was the story? We still don't know. They could be operating a secret police station in some part of this country. Down the road from me, 10 minutes maybe. Who knows? We don't know. The Gardaí won't say that these people... But it's not the first time. And then even just speaking about China too, we've seen this a few weeks ago. I talked about this a few weeks ago. And I knew this for a while too, because the new civil service building in Cavan, civil defence building, may I say, in Cavan has these too, which believe that we have... Literally, we can't even buy Western-made goods. We have to go to China. It doesn't make any sense. We have loads of countries in the European Union, in Europe, has Western ideas, democracy, freedom, but we decide to run off to China to get security cameras, and especially companies that have links to the Communist Party of China. As Father Ted said, they're a great bunch of lads. In a lot of these cases, they're not a great bunch of lads, unfortunately. But so in the majority of public buildings in this country, it's pretty much China is spying on them, pretty much, because they pretty much do have a back door. Like, regardless, there's always a back door. I know people who work in tech, and they always say there's a back door. If you know how to use it, if you have people that are brainy enough to know how to get into it, anything can be broken. If you have the right people that can do it. But that's on them. But I want to talk about too the terrorist threats that have been happening in this state, and the terrorist attack too that happened in this state quite recently. And you probably heard about this in the media. This man stabbed the Garda, first of all. You've probably seen the video online and went viral. He stabbed the guard in the back about 2 months ago. And then he tried to set fire to Conor McGregor's pub, the Black Forge Inn. Now this is, and it's a terror. He obviously acted in the terrorist instant. What I mean by that is what he shouted before he stabbed the guard was indication that it was a terrorist offence, and that it was committed, to drive fear, and it was. And again, the assault on the guard too. He had the intention to hurt the guard or kill the guard on Capitol Street. This is just not too long ago. And the media are very silent about this. They're like, this is an offence. This is a terrorist offence. This is a terrorist attack. This is the foreign terrorist attack on Irish soil. Particularly the stabbing of a guard too. It was a terrorist incident. Regardless of what way you look at it, the man was motivated to commit an act of terrorism. Now, we don't know all the information. That's the thing. We still don't know all the information. All the information should be released. But unfortunately, these things have become more common in this country. And we have to look into why this has happened, because it's very worrying. I just want to talk about the incident that happened a few months, last year, but this year, the court case was resolved, but last year. A boy was given 8 years in detention for stabbing an army chaplain in Galway. Now, this boy was radicalised by ISIS, etc., etc., and he was a young Irish fellow. He was radicalised by ISIS, etc., by propaganda on social media, etc., etc. It was a very, very serious incident. But what I do say about this case, the army chaplain, this man here, this gentleman here, he showed great restraint. He forgave the boy. He forgave the boy that stabbed him, that could have killed this man. And hopefully this boy, because I don't blame the boy, because it was propaganda that got into his head. It blurred his thinking, I suppose you would say. But still, it's something that is very worrying, because it was a domestic terrorism. That's what this was, more than terrorism itself, but it was motivated by terrorism. It was domestic more than international terrorism. And then we see today too, the other day, that an asylum seeker who came to this country, who was arrested by An Garda Síochána, was taken into custody because he basically made alleged threats to commit an act of terrorism, to commit a mass shooting. Now, thankfully, shootings and getting weapons, like weapons of huge mass destruction, what he was saying, but biological weapons and assault rifles, etc., so it's very difficult. Even just an ordinary gun is very, very hard to get in this country, as it should be. But even the threat alone is very dangerous, because this man too gave a fake name. He didn't want to say who he was. And he was deported, this article too, he was deported from the UK. So he was known, so pretty much he came into the country with terrorist convictions, which should never happen. Nobody with any conviction for terrorism, for violent incidents, for anything like a kidnapping, murder, or anything like that, or even assisting to murder, etc., etc., or purporting the cause of justice, whatever about not paying your electricity bill or something like that. We're not going to go mad over that, but something like this, like a man that had terrorist convictions, because he did have terrorist convictions before. He shouldn't be let into the country. First of all, this man probably should be sent home, because he is an asylum seeker. He's in our country. We're paying for him to be here. He shouldn't probably be here, to be told honestly. He committed, especially threatening to commit a mass shooting, threatening to kill. God knows, especially biological weapons too. If he threatened that, it's a huge thing. And then obviously not being honest with people who he is. First of all, it's very serious. It's a very serious concern, because it shows that we're not looking at who these people are that's coming in. And as I said about the other case, just to go back to the other case for a second, there is a risk of internal radicalisation, I suppose, because this young lad was an Irish citizen and stuff. It can happen that young people could be radicalised by ISIS, by other groups, to commit terrorism like this. In this case, and we have to kind of look out for that. We have to look out for that. But the main concern for me, as we see with China, is agents coming into the state, and people coming into the state that we don't know who they are. And this is what happens, because we probably should have asked questions about why this student was coming here, because that should have been looked into. And did he have association with the Communist Party, etc. So we never looked into that. We probably just looked at his name He probably came in with no passport, so who knows? But what I'm trying to say, we probably should have looked at that. And for Chinese people coming here, we probably should look to see, do they have association with Xi Jinping or the Communist Party or with the secret intelligence agency in China? Do they have associations with them, the close connections, before we let them into the country? Because it's simply for national security. Because we can't have this carry on happening, whereas foreign spies can come here and basically be its playground. And we know about a Russian spy that came here a while ago trying to influence Irish politicians. And MI6 and MI5 are still here, but we haven't done anything for that. But just go back to the last thing I would say for today, and this is to do with the Irish Defence Forces. This is to do with the intelligence service. So it's known as J2, as I say. There's only about 5 people that were in it for the last 50 years. There has been literally nothing. Like, it's been 5 people, maybe 7 people if you're lucky. But yes, they finally are sending, but they're probably beefing it up, so they're probably about 15 maybe now. But they're finally kind of going to the CIA, etc., to get knowledge on how to, hopefully not spy on Irish citizens, but identify terrorist threats and look into that and etc. So all of them is starting to get there, but I do think we have to take these more seriously, because it could happen. Sadly, it could happen, and I don't want to sit here and fearmonger people, because it can happen, unfortunately, and we have to be prepared. In this country, we're not prepared in terms of the military, in terms of, as you see here, all the systems have failed. Because, as we see with Chinese spies, as we see with the Garda station, that this should never happen. This particularly should never have happened. And then people coming in, that poses a risk to the public safety. And then this case too. It's all very worrying indicators, and I'm sure everybody would agree. And it's something the media, particularly the mainstream media, should talk about a bit more, because it is a danger. Like, people can lose their lives because of this. And we need to keep people safe. And the main priority of the state is to make sure you and your family are safe, and that you can walk to the streets, and you can go to the shop, you can go to school. And we don't want anything, I know people say straight away, we don't want anything like this happening in this country. And particularly, there's a lot of money in this country. There's not an issue of money. It's the issue of the will. Because the Irish government, the Irish politicians, want the European Union to have a European army so they can defend the state and stuff, which is total bogus. We can defend ourselves if we put the effort in. But at the same time too, they want NATO to come in here to defend Ireland, which is insane too, because we should be able to defend ourselves. As a sovereign country, we could do it back years ago. We should do it. We should be able to do it now. But there's no will. They want other people to do our problems for us. It not makes any sense. So we try and pay a huge amount of money to NATO, and we get maybe lip service. That'll be the idea. But yeah. So let me know what you think, because it is a really, really serious thing. It is really, really serious, and I can't emphasize how serious it is, because it's very worrying. It is really, really worrying. Particularly, as I say, I'm very concerned about this, about other infiltrators in the country that are infiltrating Irish society and stuff like that, and committing espionage and spying on the Irish state, and not to mention too terrorist offences. Like, all these cameras too should be sent back to China as soon as possible, because the risk is just too high, and I don't think we can risk it. The security risk to the state is far too high. It's something that can't be overlooked. And as I say too about this incident, this person should be deported. Simple as that. There's no ifs and no buts about it. If you are asylum seeking, you say you're going to commit a crime or do a crime in this country, simple as that, you're going home. Simple as that. You have no right to be here. Particularly when you're trying to cause fear and anxiety to people, and especially threatening to do this kind of stuff. Biological weapons, very dangerous stuff, very frightening stuff too, I suppose, in a way. But yeah, let me know what you think. There's a lot to take in there, but I hope I got my point across, because we do need to be for our security. We do really need to do it, and we need to protect our citizens. So let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.